Happening now on Grid Tonight, the four drivers who will compete for the 2025 Supercars Championship at the Adelaide Grand Final are set. Which driver is the favorite to win it all? Ryan Hunter-Reay is teaming up with Aaron McLaren for next year's Indianapolis 500. Is RHR a good fit at McLaren? Ram and Kaulig Racing have created something called the Free Agent Driver Program. What is this new innovative idea all about? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert, and with me are Joshua Birch from JB Motorsports and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to interact with us in the chat, support us through Super Chat, and visit gridnetworktv.com for our latest content. Now here's Joshua with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Evening to you both. Evening, everybody. And if you're living in the UK, wrap up warm and go build some snowmen. It's coming in as well. I've retreated indoors, but Matt is braving the elements tonight as well. So he's got a hot water bottle ready. So send him all of the love in the chat. It is freezing outside. Let's get into it then and join with our top story. The four Repco Supercar Championship contenders for the Adelaide Grand Final were sold out of the Sandown 500 with Broc, Feeney, Chaz, Mostert, Will Brown and Kyle Allen having a chance to win a title. Now, Chaz Mostert won race one at Sandown from the front row to win and secured his spot in the Supercars version of the Championship 4. He also took the lead from Broc Feeney by 1 point after the first race. But in race 2, it was a complex race of a wet qualifying, a dry start, then heavy rain and back to dry conditions. Broc Feeney won race 2 from pole, breaking Mostert's 3-race winning streak. Graphic courtesy there of Supercars. Kobe, bringing you in as well straight away on this one. Which driver seems to have the most momentum entering into Adelaide? Is it Feeney or is it Mostert?
Well, since he stopped the momentum of Chaz Mostert, I have to say it has to be Broc Feeney right now, because Feeney has had, one heck of a season so far, because he's won 13 races and he's taken 16 poles compared to Chaz Mostert's 4 poles. I mean 4 race wins and 1 pole for Chaz Mostert. And it's been really interesting because Broc Feeney, he's been dominant for much of the season, but since Supercars switched to this new playoff style format, which they're calling the finals, the points reset and it gets a lot closer. I mean, it's not like, they're not all tied in points, based on like how they've done in the regular season, with the races that they won. Also, the Endurance Cup points as well play a factor and how they've been seeded for the finals. But Broc Feeney, he's been the hands down favorite. But with Chaz Mostert taking advantage of this new system, he's really been able to close the gap for him to go out there, sweep the Gold Coast and then win race 1 at Sandown. It really seemed like the momentum was shifting Chaz's way. And then, race 2 at Sandown, he had a lot of problems in that one, especially, when he went out there in the wet and then slid off the track and, had a minor crash. But thankfully, he was able to recover and still have a nice finish. But it would have been better. It would have been a higher finish if, it hadn't been for that incident, obviously. But yeah, I think that this is still Broc Feeney's championship to lose. I think him and Triple Eight can really get that car dialed in Adelaide. They'll be perfectly fine. But if they have something catastrophic happen, I believe Chaz Mostert could be there to swoop in and potentially steal this year's championship.
Well, evening, everybody. And I'm going to roll out a line that we don't often say on this show. I'm going to disagree with you. And I think it's Chaz that's got, even though he, as you say, didn't have that greatest race on the Sunday at Sandown, with the conditions not helping, with his run that he's been on over this last little while, he's channeling his Tony Stewart or Jimmy Johnson to come on late and grow great guns in the playoffs / chase / final system that Supercars are running this year for the first time. He has got the win behind him, and going to Adelaide, which is still a few more weeks away. It is a track that the Walkinshaw team, in all of its guises down the years, have been extremely successful at. James Courtney was a winner there a few times for them back in the HRT days, as was Garth Tander. Now, not taking anything away from Triple Eight Red Bull, they've been very successful there in the past, but the last couple of years, with Brown last year, and then Van Gisbergen a couple of years before when he won his last title, they kind of stumbled across the line a little bit in this final weekend. Okay, it's a little bit different this year with 3 races over the Adelaide weekend instead of the 2. and it's obviously a different system in terms of the points, and we've got the 4 and everything else. They don't need to be having people stumbling their way to a championship, especially if it's Feeney. Brown is in there as one of the 4, and he's not had the greatest of seasons, especially as the season has tailed through. He was strong at the start, but Feeney has certainly been the faster of the 2 888 cars. But I still think Chaz Mostert is going to be very, very, very fast around the Adelaide street circuit in a few weeks' time, and he is certainly going to take it to Feeney. It's going to be a great weekend to look out for. And of course, we've got NASCAR interest, of course, with Austin Cindric getting his run over that weekend as well in the new Ford Performance Armor All colours, which were debuted at the weekend after the Sandown race. So very much excited to see how this Supercars Championship winds out.
Absolutely. It's unusual to hear the words, I'm going to disagree with you on a show. So that's certainly something to keep tuned in for. Now, with Feeney's win, Will Brown was behind him in 3rd place, and that's completing a weekend of 2nd and 3rd place finishes. The big drama was for 4th, and the final transfer spot, it looked like Matt Payne was going to claim it. However, very physical battle that led to contact between him and Cam Waters ruined both of their races and title hopes. Now, Waters suffered a blown tyre and later went to the garage with shock damage. Now, Payne's toe link was ruined and the car's handling wasn't the same. He fell back, lost numerous positions in the final spot to compete for a championship as well. Now, at the moment of the battle, Cam Waters was in a must-win situation. Payne was not. So, Kobe, did this year's Bathurst 1000 champion fail to see the bigger picture that the fight with Waters wasn't worth it?
Yeah, I certainly think so, because this was a situation. I don't know if the Penrite Racing crew was telling Matt over the radio what was the points like as they run. I know the broadcast did a few updates of what the points looked like at that time, but without a win, Cam Waters wasn't going anywhere, and it was just really crazy to see Payne and Waters just racing so aggressively. I think obviously Cam knew he was in a must-win situation, so he didn't need to give up any positions or anything like that. But I feel like in that type of situation, someone needs to try to communicate to Matt over the radio that, hey, you're still in a good position, that this is not worth it. It's not worth beating and banging and getting yourself in a whole bunch of trouble over a meaningless position like that. So if Cam Waters wanted the position so badly, I know the driver don't want to hear it, but just let him have it, and then just continue to follow the point situation along the way and be where you need to be, and then just get to the end unscathed if you can. Yeah, so I feel like that that the young driver and Matt Payne came in that moment. They usually want to fight for every spot, and unfortunately, just ended in disaster for Matt, because if it wasn't for this incident, he would be the Penrite driver going into the Supercars version of the championship 4, and instead of being the driver to go home on the outside looking in. And we know Matt Payne can get the job done at Adelaide because he's done it before. And if Matt Payne goes to Adelaide and dominates the entire weekend, he's really going to be kicking himself, because at that point, he would that ends, and I would be in contention to win a championship right now. But I think Matt Payne is going to continue to he's going to continue to be up there, in the finals year after year for the foreseeable future in Supercars. And I know at some point he is going to get in that championship 4, and he is going to go to the final round and have a shot to win the championship. I think that it's just the beginning for Matt Payne, but it's a shame given the season they had that he's not going to have a chance to go out there and win the title. All because he has Calvin Fish like to say, a lot of argy-bargy out there.
Yeah, quite a lot of argy-bargy as well. Now, some chats first of all. The grand final Adelaide is going to be electric. Go for Broc, can't wait as well. That's coming up this weekend, and add Austin Cindric and get the popcorn ready. It's going to be a lot of fun, actually, seeing Austin Cindric do battle coming into this final weekend, as he's there from the NASCAR seat. Now, the only winless driver in the final 4 is the rookie of Kyle Allen. Now, he's had 5 podiums with a best finish of 2nd place, and that's done twice at Darwin and Queensland. Allen was also the last driver to make the finals, but he's made it all the way to the championship round in the inaugural year of this playoff format. Now, during the Supercars broadcast, since Payne has clearly been the lead Penrite Racing driver this season, as we've talked about. There was a suggestion that the team should have considered team orders to help the wounded Payne by asking Allen to lose 3 spots to ensure Payne would race for the championship instead. So, Kobe, back to you on this. Does Kyle deserve a lot of credit for positioning himself for a title run? But did it fall into his lap with others running into issues? And do you think it's absurd that the team order suggestion was even brought up in the first place?
I'm going to start off with the second part, Josh. I just want to say that it was the most nonsensical thing that I've ever heard on a Supercars broadcast in a long time. And the fact is that they posted the social media clip of it after the fact. I'm like, I don't think this is something that you want to be highlighting, to the audience out there, that you're literally saying on the broadcast that it might be a good idea, since Matt Payne's been, the man at Penrite. I guess if we're using F1 terms, you'd say he's been the number one driver over there throughout the year, while rookie Kyle Allen, just getting up to speed. And then to go out there and for you on your broadcast to suggest to all of your viewers watching, at home and abroad, that you should tell your driver who is currently in the transfer spot that, hey, you should lose a couple of positions, so Matt Payne gets in because he gives us the best chance of winning. And I would agree with that part of the statement. I believe that Matt Payne would give Penrite Racing the best chance to go out there and win a championship compared to, his less experienced teammate in Kyle Allen. But I think it's just ridiculous to even suggest, at that point that Kyle Allen should have given up positions. And thankfully, I don't think the team would even consider such an idea like that, since it is so silly. And given where Kyle Allen was on the track at the time, he was close enough to the car ahead of him where he could have potentially laid out the throttle, let him by. But the other positions that he would have needed to give up, it would be so obvious, that he was giving up those spots. But I don't think Penrite Racing would do something like that because you would obviously be putting the integrity of the sport in question. Like, if you're gonna do team orders, you have to make it look convincing that's exactly not what you're doing. I don't know if Supercars have like a 100% rule or anything like that, but if something like that had to happen, it would have left an extremely sour taste in people's mouths. So, given where he was at the time, that hey, you get one guy in the championship fight, probably not the guy they would have wanted in the fight, but Kyle Allen, looking at the rookie season that he's had, I don't think we should discredit what he's been able to do this year in the Repco Supercars Championship. I know the start of his rookie year was not that great. Had a lot of inconsistent finishes, and then at the very end of the at the end of the regular season at Bathurst, I believe if Broc Feeney hadn't made a pass on Andre Heimgartner on the final lap of the Bathurst 1000, Kyle Allen would not even be in the finals right now. But he's done a good job taking advantage of the system in place, because when the finals started on the Gold Coast, he finished on the podium in race 1. Then he finished 6th in race 2, and then once he got to Sandown, he finished 7th, and then he finished 6th. And Kai, he's just been consistent enough. And compared to where he was earlier in the season, he's doing a lot better, and he's starting to build some momentum and get on a run. So I don't want to say, that, he's only here because others ran into trouble, but we can also say that he stepped up his game as well. But compared to all of the others who are in this championship for, I don't want to say that Kyle Allen would be the least deserving, but compared to the resumes of all the others, a lot of people, I think, it would probably cause a controversy if was able to do the thing and somehow win this championship, with Feeney, Mostert, and Brown running into trouble, if we potentially get a winless champion this year in Supercars after the great success we've seen from Broc Feeney with 13 wins and 16 poles. So I do think that Kyle Allen is going to continue to get better in Supercars over time. I think he's one of the brightest young talents in the series. I think Penrite have a great lineup in Allen and Payne that they can have for the foreseeable future. But but just looking at where he is right now in the championship, yes, deserves credit for the job that he's done. but I believe the other 3 drivers are on a completely different level right now compared to him. But he still has a chance to potentially win this, because this is a championship round and a lot of things can happen.
Yeah, absolutely, Kobe. And he's done a great job to keep his nose clean relatively throughout this sort of back half of the season and get himself in position. And of course, when other people are having incident dramas, whatever around you, like what happened to his teammate, as you were explaining there on Sunday, he's found his way in, and could we be at the end of the Adelaide weekend winding back to that pass that you mentioned about Feeney and Heimgartner? Or if this pass hadn't been made, then Alan wouldn't have been this far through the playoffs, and then he's in, to use one of my favourite social media phrases at the moment, he's got the chance to do the funniest thing, which is sweep in as a rookie, perhaps not even win a race, but make up the point standings. I tell you what, we haven't had at Adelaide for the last few years: weather. And if we have some weather on grand final weekend down there in SA, then that could really quite literally throw a spanner in the works for the other guys there fighting for the championship. The team order stuff is just silly, isn't it? I mean, the fact that they would pull one of their guys out of an advancing spot to get their other guy through potentially just seems weird. But it's not like I love the Supercars TV broadcast team. Everything about it, I think, is they've got some tweaks to make. And by the sounds of things, if you've read some of the articles on Australian motorsport media this week, then there might be some changes coming to the TV team next year. They've got some things that they could tweak, but generally I think it's brilliant. But I think Supercars would have wanted, if they had the choice, to have their Bathurst champion in the final four going to Adelaide in a couple of weeks' time. And perhaps that's what they were a bit miffed about when, they had a chance to get Payne through, but didn't. So it's to some degree, it is a bit of a shame. It's a bit like having the Daytona 500 winner get himself all the way through to the championship four in recent years in NASCAR. Of course, things will change, but that's not happened for a long time, has it? With some random or various winners of the 500, you think of Cindric and Stenhouse and people like that over the last couple of years. So, I think they probably would have wanted the Bathurst champion in the final four if they had to choose, but they've got the best team generally with their two drivers in Brown and Feeney, and of course Chaz is one of the fan favourites, and now we've got this young upstart rookie in Kyle Larson, who, as I say, could end up sweeping in, even though he's a little bit behind in the points, could end up coming out of the free race weekend at Adelaide with the championship, which will be wild.
Now, as you mentioned, there is going to be a different points format, but during the Adelaide Grand Prix final weekend, that's on November the 27th to the 30th, this is how they will go in. Feeney will enter with a 50-point bonus as the championship lead, with Mostert 20 points behind him, and 35 points behind is Will Brown, but there are no bonus points for Kyle Larson in fourth since he hasn't won a race, as we've mentioned. Now, there is a maximum of 300 points available if somebody sweeps that weekend, and as Matt has brilliantly pointed out, it's a very difficult one if weather is in the mix. So, Matt, throwing right back to you, who is your favourite to win the championship?
Just for Matthew Owens, if he's watching, the maximum point game possible is 300. And it's, of course, hashtag, as he would say on Twitter, hashtag garbage system. Get that one in as well. As we talked about at the top, I think Chaz will be the man, but we've seen people like last year at Adelaide, there was cars wiped out through practice and qualifying with crashes that put them out for the weekend. Was it Stanaway, I think, was out with concussion. Cam Hill had a big one. David Reynolds had a big one through the fast sweeper turn 8 down the back straight there. So it is a place that will trap people, and a slight mistake can cause you to have your weekend ruined, especially if you were to get involved in an incident in qualifying on the Saturday, say, then you could be out for the whole weekend if your car's destroyed. So it's going to be really interesting. My feeling is that it's still going to be Chaz. I'm sure that Red Bull Triple Eight will want to go out of their General Motors tenure, taking the last championship that's available to them. And of course, we've documented that they're switching to Ford quite a lot on this show throughout the year. So their last chance to win another championship with Chevrolet and GM. My pick, though, is going to be Chaz. What do you say, Kobe? I know you were strong on Feeney at the top of the show.
Yeah, like you say, Matt, I have to disagree, which is rare on this show. But yeah, I'm gonna stick with Feeney as my championship pick, and I see Adam is also picking Broc Feeney to win this year's Supercars championship. But, just looking at the resume of all 4 drivers, we've already talked about Kyle Allen doesn't have any wins or poles. Was a real struggle at the start of the season, but he started finding his footing, as the regular season went on. And then once the final started, he was a completely different driver. He's just been, super consistent, and it's finally starting to click for him in Supercars, almost like Matt Payne during his rookie year, where there were some struggles here and there at the start. And then by the end of the season, he was right where he needed to be. And I think Kyle Allen is trending there as well. And like I said, I would have rather gone into the final weekend if I'm Penrite. I would rather have Matt Payne as my driver to have a chance to win the championship right now, given his level of experience and what he's done this season. But Kyle Allen is the guy that they have, and I'm sure they're going to put in all of the resources they can so he can, pull off what would be considered an upset at this point, since he has not won a race or a pole. And I'm sure if you love underdogs, in the playoffs, that Kyle Allen is a big underdog that some people will be cheering for. And then Will Brown, the defending Supercars champion, 2 wins, one pole position. I don't think this is this hasn't been the championship defense season that you'd like to see from Will Brown, because Broc Feeney has been smoking him in every single category all year long. And Will's had a lot of, dramas in practice and qualifying throughout the year. And then the race, just hasn't shown the same speed as Feeney consistently. But I will say, although Will Brown had 2 terrible qualifying sessions at Sandown in both races this weekend, this is the best version of Will Brown I've seen all season long. He was absolutely flying and just slicing his dice in his way through the field. And I was very impressed with Will Brown's performance in both Sandown races. And maybe if he can carry the momentum from these great drives he had in these pair of races at Sandown, maybe Will Brown could potentially put himself in the conversation to go back-to-back despite not having the type of season that his teammates had. And then Chaz Mostert, I think if Chaz Mostert were to win the championship, although he does have he has 4 wins and 1 pole compared to Broc's 13 wins and 16 poles, I think given the momentum Chaz Mostert has right now, that he could potentially, be viewed, as a deserving champion because he's gotten hot at the right time. And that Walkinshaw and Andretti United team, they've done some really good things down the stretch. And Matt, I know you talked about 888 switching over to Ford next year. This is also Walkinshaw and Andretti United swan song with Ford, so they could potentially go out on top with the Blue Oval, because they're going to be, the factory, the homologation team for the new Toyota super program that's coming to the Supercars Championship next year. So 888 trying to go out with Chevy, and then Walkinshaw and Andretti United trying to go out with Ford before they switch manufacturers next season. But all in all, I think Broc Feeney is the most deserving champion of them all, but rather wait to see the following weekend who ends up getting the championship in Adelaide. But I'm sure it's going to be extremely exciting. I see John Bender says that Will Brown is your pick despite the season that he's had.
Did we, in a motorsport context, ever use the phrase deserving champion before Phoenix a few weeks ago? Did we ever use it? That's a conversation for another day. Kyle Allen is the Caden Honeycutt of this situation for you NASCAR fans out there.
Do I bring up 2021 in Abu Dhabi?
No, move on.
We don't need to revisit that, Josh. You were on the air with us that day. You remember we were on the air for like 3 or 4 hours.
Yes, I broke 2 of my microphones in the process. Overheating. Oh, that was a long day, wasn't it? Yeah. Very late in the year. Now, you can join us then on November 27th to 30th for all of the grand final weekend at Adelaide as well. Going to be a lot of fun. Rumours kicking around still that there might be a Formula E race there eventually going forward, as we had Pico talking with Jeff Dodds during the break. And there are a couple of cities that want a Formula E race, and Australia was mentioned in that, so keep an eye out. But talking about Formula E now as our second story of the evening. Starting in season 13 of the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship, Porsche will kick off the Gen 4 era by expanding its involvement in the electric open wheels racing series. Now, Porsche has shown its long-term commitment to Formula E, with plans to operate a second team alongside the current Porsche Formula E team. Now, we've seen the German manufacturer in the series since season 6, as the Porsche factory team has seen plenty of success, 13 E-Prix victories, 32 podiums, a driver's title with Pascal Wehrlein, plus a team's and manufacturer's title as well. Now, the Formula E CEO, Jeff Dodds, said that Porsche's decision to acquire an additional license for the 26-27 season demonstrates Formula E's significant strength and Porsche's dedication to innovation and electrification of the pinnacle of motorsport. Now, with the news of Formula E's expansion for Porsche, it's also led to online outrage from the fans who believe that this is a direct result of eliminating the factory Porsche Penske Motorsport hypercar program in the FIA World Endurance Championship. The graphic here, courtesy of Formula E. Well, Kobe, starting with you on this one, is Porsche setting itself up with an arrangement similar to that of Red Bull and Racing Bulls in Formula One? And do you think the elimination of Porsche's factory-backed WEC hypercar program has led to this new Formula E team?
Well, Josh, when I was first reading about this story, I was reading about it from the media outlet, The Race, and they basically call this a junior works team. So when they say junior works team, I assume that this is going to be a Red Bull / Racing Bulls type of arrangement, as you've alluded to. And I think that would be really interesting to see how that style would work in Formula E. I know it's worked out well, with Red Bull and Racing Bulls over the years, where you're able to let some of your talents develop over there at Racing Bulls before you promote them to the F1 seat. Although whoever gets that second seat at Red Bull these days, usually it tends to flame out, since they've had Max Verstappen in that car. So I guess maybe Red Bull and Racing Bulls is not a good example to use in this situation, but I'm sure Porsche, will have a great plan in place to try to figure out how to navigate this. And I know there's, when you look at the Porsche driver pool, there's a lot of, great Porsche drivers out there. I know on the sports car side of things, they're going through some changes now, with drivers leaving and some drivers being promoted, and some drivers are probably going to, sign on with Porsche as well. And given the pool of drivers that they have, I'm sure there's a few of them that would love to have in Formula E. But, since they currently have, 2 factory seats right now, probably kind of hard to find them, spots on the grid. But if they have a brand new team, they can bring in younger talents, develop them with that second Porsche team, and then once they feel like that driver is ready, they can move them up to the main Porsche team that is currently on the grid right now. So I think it would be fun if Porsche, ends up becoming the Red Bull and Racing Bulls of Formula E, with this style of setup. And I do understand the outrage from all the sports car fans. Like when I look on social media, whenever I see this, like a link to this story, I've seen nothing but outrage from all the sports car lovers out there. And the main line is, did the Porsche WEC hypercar program die for this? Yeah, that's been the main line I've been seeing. Like, people are so upset, and yeah, I'm disappointed as well that we're not going to see a factory Porsche in the World Endurance Championship hypercar class next season, and it looks like we're not even going to see any Porsches in general, because for what's his name Proton competition, with the Proton competition program there, that they don't really have the funding to go out there and have a second hypercar program, a second hypercar to their lineup. So that's going to be extremely difficult for that organization to try to do that. And the rules in the World Endurance Championship hypercar class now, you have to have 2 full-time cars, per manufacturer to be able to run. If you only have one to the WC, I'm sorry guys, but it's just not good enough. So it's really crazy that we may not see any Porsches in the top category next year. But if you want to see Porsches guaranteed, go to the IMSA, whether the Sports Car Championships GTP class. Got both Porsche Penske Motorsport entries. They're going to be there next year. We also got JDC Miller Motorsports as well. So you can still see those cars, but it just might be on one side of the Atlantic instead of both. And given the budget cuts and stuff that they've done at Porsche, it would not surprise me if this new Formula E team, the second team in Formula E, is a directly result of cutting the funding for this hypercar program.
Yeah, Porsche Light, Diet Porsche, other things you could think of for this second team.
Audi. Oops.
Yeah, the AG group. Good for Formula E that is more cars on the grid, because we're not quite sure if there might be people that are around this year that might not be there next year. So at least we've got a guaranteed from Porsche. There'll be I'm sure once the season kicks off this time next year, or leading up to next season when this team comes in. There'll be people posting pictures of the hypercar with the caption, "Don't forget what they stole from us," etc., on social media. But it is we talked about it a couple of weeks ago when the hypercar pullout was announced. It's a real shame that it's come to this. But Porsche employ lots of people, and they need to keep them employed, and a lot of them are in the driver program. Yeah, and we're going to find out next week who the next Porsche Junior supported driver is going to be at Night of Champions, which I think is at the weekend. So the next cab off the rank from the Porsche Junior setup, and this would be a good place for them to go. You're not going to see Kevin Est and Lawrence Vanfour and people like Julian Andlauer. Of course, he's just leaving Porsche, but guys like that. No, sorry, it was Jaminet that's leaving Porsche, isn't it, at the end of the season? Guys like that turning up in Formula E in this second Porsche team, but places for some of their Super Cup guys to go, and some of their perhaps guys from the National Carrera Cup Championships that have run out of money that want to get into some single seaters or that kind of thing and propel them towards the hypercar class, perhaps with another manufacturer. We've seen so much crossover, of course, in the driver market between Formula E and the WEC ever since Formula E began. What's that now? 11 years ago, almost, just over. So it is a shame that we're going to have no WEC Porsches, and as Kobe said, IMSA is going to be the place to go to see the 919. But the pro of all of this story, I feel, from my side, is that we're guaranteed to have another couple of cars on the Formula E grid, which at times can be a little bit shaky, especially when we have a regulation change such as this one coming next year.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add, Matt, and since it's unlikely at this point to see any Porsches in the Hypercar Class next year, it also means that Porsche Penske Motorsport can't use their automatic invite to Le Mans from winning the IMSA championship, which is honestly such a shame. And I was also reading that IMSA plan to rewrite their rule book, in relation to that, because the rule book says now that, if for any team, that wins like the GTP championship, you get an automatic invite to Le Mans. It says like guaranteed, but they're going to reward it in a way, we're saying where you could receive an automatic invite, just to be more fair in that type of situation.
Honestly, rules and regulations. They're so annoying. Okay, moving on then, back to IndyCar, as our McLaren has signed the 2012 NTT IndyCar Series champion, Ryan Hunter-Reay, for the 110th running of the Indianapolis 500. Now, Hunter-Reay will take over the entry driven by Kyle Larson for the last 2 years in the now renumbered number 31 Chevrolet, and the 2014 Indy 500 champion will be teammates with McLaren's full-time drivers of Pato O'Ward, Nolan Siegel, and Christian Lundgaard. Now, in this year's Indy 500, Hunter-Reay put on a show for Dreyer Reinbold as he started the race in a backup car after his primary car caught fire on carb day. Then RHR drove all the way to the front of the field and led 48 laps before a fuel issue took him out of contention. Hunter-Reay has said it's an honour to represent and drive for one of the most iconic teams in motorsport history, and after coming so close to having a shot at winning this year's Indy 500, he's ready to make the most out of his new partnership, and the photo courtesy here of McLaren. Every time I look at him, he's just getting slowly older and older. And he's looking more and more like the older statesman. But Matt, starting with you, is Ryan Hunter-Reay, he'll be 45 years old next May, at the best possible team to help him contend for his second Indy 500 win in the final stages of his career?
He's like one of those flick books, and every time you turn the page, he gets slightly older every time the page is turned. Helio Castroneves is 51. The drive for 5 is still alive for him, so there is still hope for RHR for his second. Guy on the wall behind me didn't quite go for him in both of his runs with his team, but you would say, even though it's Kyle Larson, that getting Ryan in the car is probably an upgrade with all of his experience of championship winning and Indy 500 winning guy. So it'll be a nice boost forward. McLaren, Pato was in contention in the last couple of years, but generally throughout their group have struggled over these last couple of years at the speedways. So perhaps Zach had that in mind to try and get someone a bit more 500 experienced on the team there. Of course, they've had Tony Kanaan in his advisory role, but currently driving, with Ryan Hunter-Reay, get him involved there and try and just steer the McLaren Indianapolis ship in the right direction to take on the Penske Ganassi might at the front of the field. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on. Still plenty of time, plenty of life in the old dog yet. And if Castro Neves is 51, then Ryan's got at least 6 more chances to try and grab himself another Paul Warner trophy.
Yeah, one of the stories that I believe we didn't really talk about enough during this year's Indy 500 was Ryan Hunter-Reay, because what he did, was extremely impressive. One of the smaller teams in the IndyCar paddock, Dreyer Reinbold, they only come out one time a year. They only come out for the Indianapolis 500, and then they go away into hibernation until next year's Indy 500. And what happened to him on Carp Day, for a small team like that, that's honestly devastating. I remember when the car caught fire, and just see it, burn the way it did, and it was this real unfortunate situation. And then you think, yeah, with Dreyer Reinbold, they'll have speed when they show up to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. But given the fact that they had to go to a backup car, and after Carp Day, you don't get any more on track time, so he was getting his first laps in that backup car. When he was going out there to take the green flag. And, sometimes when you have a backup car for the Indy 500, sometimes it'll be just as good as your primary, and other times, it'll be even worse. There's like the year Colton Herta, ended up crashing his car, and then they gave him a backup, and then the backup was so slow and horrendous that he just, had to go behind the wall and call it a day. And for Ryan Hunter-Reay and his Dreyer Reinbold team, they worked so hard to get that car ready to go, and that car was so fast. That backup car was so fast. You mentioned, Josh, he led 48 laps in this race, and if it hadn't been for that fuel issue, who knows? Maybe Ryan Hunter-Reay would have been in contention to win, because he certainly had the speed, to go out there, and compete with an Alex Palou for this year's Indianapolis 500. So he shows he still has a lot left in the tank, that he can go out there if you give him the right equipment and win this race. And as you mentioned, looking at Helio Castroneves' age when he won, his fourth Indy 500 in 2021, he was 46 years old, and Ryan Hunter-Reay, he'll still be younger next May than Helio. So it's certainly possible that Ryan Hunter-Reay could potentially get that second. And then the oldest drivers, to ever win the Indy 500 at 47 years old, you have Bobby and, Al Unser in 1981 and 1987, respectively there. So I still think Ryan has some left in the tank, and looking forward to seeing how he's doing, with Aaron McLaren next year. And I know, outside of the great runs we've seen with Pato O'Ward, you certainly want to see Nolan Siegel and Christian Lundgaard show some more speed as well. And given, all of Ryan's years of oval racing experience, I think he'll certainly be an asset to that program and try to help them go much faster than they have been outside of O'Ward.
It's going to be quite an interesting 500 then when we get back to Indiana next year. John says, I'm glad for Hunter-Reay to go in. I am too. He did deserve it this year. And that annoying fuel issue just cost him a bit too much. So I forgot that he was in such a good position. I didn't know it was 45 laps he led. I remember him leading. Just can't remember him leading that long out of the 200. So that's an impressive run. Okay, moving on to our hot topic for this evening, and it is quite exciting. Ram Trucks and Kaulig Racing have launched a new initiative called the Free Agent Driver Program ahead of the 2026 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series season. Now, we already know that Brendan Butterbean Queen, Daniel Dye, and Justin Haley will run full-time in the first of the 5 Ram 1500 trucks. Now, the 4th Ram entry, the number 25 Ram 1500, will be available to drivers from various disciplines across the world. Now, each week, the driver of this entry will be announced every Monday leading up to the Truck Series race, with the goal of keeping the lineup fresh and unpredictable. Now, while drivers in the free agent truck won't be competing for the championship, there will be an additional incentive for drivers to sign up for this ride. Ram is creating a prize program based on the best individual track performance. Drivers who might be interested in the free agent driver program are encouraged to reach out to Ram and Kaulig Racing using the email motorsports@ramtrucks.com. Now, the Ram CEO as well, Tim Koniski, has said that while the number 25 truck won't be chasing points, this special entry will be chasing something bigger. The goal of celebrating and amplifying fan engagement with the free agent drives, Kaulig and the Ram brand as well. The graphic courtesy of Ram Trucks. Matt, interesting topic, interesting initiative. Are you intrigued by Ram doing something entirely different here? And could it generate additional storylines like when Trackhouse did the Project 91 car?
Yeah, hold on. I'm just composing an email. motorsports@ramtrucks.com. Attach CV. Yeah, I think it's great, but maybe I like entertainment over pureness. It's going to be cool. Like every month, week of a truck race on a Monday, we're going to find out someone new and exciting and fresh that's going to be coming and doing a truck race. That's cool. Whether they're manufacturer affiliated elsewhere in different series is across the world or just in the States. If you're free I'm free, it's a weekend, I've got nothing to do and I have my helmet, I'll come on down and jump in your truck and have a go at Kansas or Las Vegas or Martinsville or Bristol or wherever, throughout the season. So I really like this as a cool concept. It's Kaulig Racing written all over it. This is the kind of slightly off the wall thing that they would do, and they've done some off the wall things in the last few years. But yeah, I'm excited by the potential to see some different people. We've seen Connor Daly dabble in the trucks over the last couple of years. Travis Pastrana, Marco Andretti. I know, of course, he announced his retirement a few weeks ago, but he could come back for one more run in a truck, perhaps. There was some talk about some of the Supercars guys, coming across and doing this. We've seen Waters and Brown do things. Feeney's trying to get a deal together, of course, to do something, or has been this year. It didn't quite come off for him, but yeah, I'm excited to see some different names and some different faces from Supercars, from IMSA, from IndyCar, from some dirt stuff even. Come and give it a go and see what if you're the king of your castle in whatever series that you run, come and have a go against these guys and see how you get on. As long as, and again, back to the entertainment versus pureness debacle, as long as it doesn't get in the way of the championship and upset everybody on social media, then I'm all for it. Adam says, who would you like to see in said all-star truck? I mean, I'm open to anybody, but I'd love to see Scotty Mack have a go.
Yeah, I think we all know he's going to give it a go, aren't we?
Newgarden.
James Hinchcliffe. Well, we know Hinch wants to go in the trucks at where were we? St. Petersburg. There we go. He wants to go for a run there, didn't he? He mentioned it as soon as announced.
That's that St. Pete weekend, and Phoenix, of course, the week after on the Oval, directly straight after it. IndyCar trucks double headers. So bring it on, anybody to have a run and see what you can make of it. Of course, Hinch will more than likely, or yet to be announced, I'm pretty certain, be part of the IMSA endurance races again, like he has been with FAC for the last couple of years. Not exactly sure where that he stands with that, but SVG maybe says Adam. I mean, yes, but I want some other people. You know what I mean? We've seen what Shane can do. We know what Shane can do. Let's have some random people from.
I would argue let's
challenge or GR Super Cup or something MX5s.
I'd say SVG, but only on one road course where he could then go for the triple. A bit like Kyle's tried to do over the years. Arguably, you'd put him on at the Navy base, wouldn't you? You'd put him there. So that we've got willpower. Get him in. There's so much that you can do. Why just Americans and people in IndyCar and NASCAR getting over Formula 1, Formula 2? You've got Danny Ricciardo, who has been hankering to get in a truck and a NASCAR for years. Get him over there and see what he can do. That's
and
my first bet.
He can bring his friend Natalie Pinkham, and they'll do a thing for Sky, just like they were at Brentford Football Club together the other week.
Yeah, brilliant. Do it. And
Cool.
I'd like that. I'd love that. And strengthens the rumours. Lewis Hamilton could do it, but if Lewis was going to do it, he'd go full cup, wouldn't he? Wouldn't go truck.
Yeah, I don't think it's on Lewis's radar or even on Ferrari's radar to let him go and have a go. Sebastian Loeb, he's retired. Jason Plato, Ivan Muller, all these just random people that could just pop up. Tony Stewart, Ryan Newman, Casey Kane. Yeah, I love all of that. Great.
I'm giving Paul O'Neill a call.
Yes, get Ari on the phone.
There's so much that could be done. It's unbelievable. We're going to have a lot of fun with this one. Yeah,
Vettel.
Yeah, could easily go in. He might be out of a drive soon. Yuki Tsunoda.
Yeah, maybe. Adam
Dixon's another good one. Yeah, especially at Phoenix. Yeah.
Well, as Kobe's reminded us in the chat behind the scenes, the trucks aren't at Phoenix, so that was my bad. That's a bluff call by me. But they are obviously at St. Pete, so there's people with track knowledge of St. Pete would be cool to have in there. A couple of the guys up from MX5, some of the young guns down there to come and do a Zillage and have a go and blow people's doors off. I think it's a great concept.
I repeat that the best thing you can do is watch the MX5 at the Rolex weekend at Daytona. The MX5 race, that's so good. Absolutely fantastic.
Of course, this year where it all ended up in a big schmozzle in the grass at the very start when they all crashed. That wasn't so good. But if they can get past that bit, it's good.
Yes. Yeah, I'd agree with you on that front. Okay, well, it's time for Matt to take over with the latest with the Grid EPI update.
The penultimate Grid EPI update of 2025, and we will tell you what happened at Macau this weekend because the FIA GT World Cup was in action alongside the Grand Prix and the TCR World Tour. 2 races for a smattering of GT3 cars. It wasn't the greatest entry list, or the biggest indeed entry list in the world, but a double victory in both the qualifying race and in the main race for Antonio Fuoco, getting the victory for Ferrari. He's one WEC hypercar drivers, of course, and drops down fairly regularly, actually, to do some GT3 stuff, and was in Macau at the weekend where he's had runs before in single-seaters, and this time he was a winner in the GT3 Ferrari, as you can see there on screen, as I say, sweeping both the qualifying and the main race on the Sunday. We have one more race in the Grid Endurance Performance Index on the year, and that means we are about to crown a champion. And if you've been watching over the last couple of weeks, you will know who it is. But we were waiting for Macau to be done and out of the way, just in case things got shuffled around and changed up. But I can confirm that the 2025 Grid Endurance Performance Index champion is young European Le Mans Series champion Ollie Gray. Congratulations to him. And he was part of the Mark VDS Panis ELMS championship winning team in LMP2 over here in Europe this season. He is the Grid Endurance champion of 2025. If Kobe rolls the next slide on, we can see how the final standings pretty much will finish. Gray cannot be topped at the top of the standings. As I said, there's only the golf 12 hours to come, and that is this weekend before Christmas. So we've got a little bit of a way to wait for it. But Gray is the champion, so congratulations to him, beating out his teammate Esteban Masson, who was part of that Mark VDS Panis LMP2 squad throughout the season. So a big win for that team. They get first and second in the EPI standings for the season. One change in the top 10 you will notice at the bottom there of the top 10 from the weekend. Lawrence Vanfor, who has previously led the EPI this year a couple of times, actually, he had 2 spells at the top of the championship standings, will finish outside the top 10 because he had a not so great run at Macau over the weekend. And that has promoted Jamie Chadwick. More on her later in the show as part of Kobe's news items. But she has been promoted into the top 10 overall in the Grid EPI. So not the first time for her in the top 10 this season, but she will be the first female to be finishing in the top 10 as long as nothing too much drastically changes from the golf 12 hours in a couple of weeks' time. So congratulations to her. Here's how the provisional final top 50 stands, but there will be a little bit of shuffling with the golf 12 hours to come. There is the top 10 and the rest of the top 20 on the left-hand side. There is a couple of races still to happen this calendar year, which will not count in the EPI. We're going to roll them into next year, which was the start of the Asian Le Mans Series, 2 races at Sepang in 2 weeks' time, which will count towards next year's EPI, much like we do with the grid ranking and its Formula E race that happens pre-Christmas. That will roll into next year, so those points will be added into next year's standings, which will start to bring you throughout the year. And there is how the top female drivers category stands, as we mentioned. Chadwick well clear of our lady racers as part of the EPI ahead of the GT World Challenge Australia AM champion Renee Gracie, who is second. One more race to go in the EPI for 2025. It is the Golf 12 Hours at the Yas Marina Circuit in Abu Dhabi just before Christmas. We'll tell you all about that in our final show of the year and confirm our final standings for the Grid EPI of 2025. But it is Oliver Gray who is the champion on the season. Now it's time to hand over to Kobe, who's got plenty of news from a very newsy week.
Thanks, Matt. Time for some more motorsports news from around the world. F1 Academy and Formula One teams will continue their successful partnership in a new multi-year agreement. All 10 current F1 teams have reaffirmed their commitment to having their F1 liveries on the F4 level F1 Academy cars and supporting the female drivers competing in the series. Starting in 2027, F1 Academy will grow as the Cadillac Formula One team plans to get involved, and a change to the rules in 2027. Drivers who have competed in 2 full F1 Academy seasons could be granted a special exemption to get a third season. Right now, once a driver runs full-time for 2 seasons, they're no longer eligible to compete in the championship. Managing director of F1 Academy, Susie Wolf, says they're not just providing a platform for the current generations of female drivers, but they're building a pathway to support future drivers as well. Graphic courtesy of F1 Academy. Junior Motorsports announced its crew chief lineup for the 2026 NASCAR Rally Auto Parts Series season. As previously announced, championship winning Cup Series crew chief Rodney Childers will move to the number 1 team, a ride shared by Carson Kroppel and Connor Zilisch. Moving over from the number 1 team, Andrew Overstreet will work with Justin Allgaier, replacing Jim Pullman, who's off to the Cup Series to work with Kyle Busch at Richard Childress Racing. And after leading JRM's part-time entry in 2025, Corey Shea will become the new full-time crew chief for Sammy Smith's number 8 team. And that means Smith's old crew chief, Philip Bell, will move over to the part-time number 9 team, where he'll be working with Cup drivers Ross Chastain and Shane Van Gisbergen in their select starts. And last but not least, Marty Lindley will return as the number 88 team's crew chief to lead Roger Caruth's rookie season. Graphic courtesy of Junior Motorsports. And sticking with the same team for the second consecutive year, Junior Motorsports will enter the 2026 Daytona 500. They'll have Justin Allgaier return to the wheel of the number 40 Chevrolet with a continuation of the partnership with Chris Stapleton and his brand Traveler Whiskey. Earlier this year, JRM entered the Great American Race as an open car and needed to fight its way into the race. And after making the race, Allgaier earned an emotional top 10 finish for the organization that's traditionally competed in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Team co-owner Kelly Earnhardt Miller said getting an opportunity to enter a second Daytona 500 is extremely special to the team and feels proud to see this group come back together for another attempt. Graphic courtesy of Junior Motorsports. And during last weekend, Sandown 500, 6-time Bathurst 1000 champion and 2007 Supercars champion Garth Tander announced his retirement from the series. Tander decided that he wanted to go out on top after winning the Great Race of Australia for the 6th time last month with Penrite Racing and co-driver Matt Payne. With 6 wins in the Bathurst 1000, Tander is currently tied for 3rd on the all-time wins list with Mark Skaife and Larry Perkins. If he had won another Bathurst, he could have moved into 2nd all-time in a tie with Craig Lowndes and Jim Richards. The king of the mountain, Peter Broc, sits at the top with 9 Bathurst 1000 victories. Tander will stay on with Penrite Racing as a team and driver advisor as Tim Slade takes over Tander's role as co-driver in 2026. Graphic courtesy of the team. And in a statement on Instagram, Garth Tander said after 27 odd years behind the wheel, it's time to hang up the Supercars helmet. What a ride it's been. The wins, the heartbreaks, the journey, the incredible teams and fans who made it all worthwhile. While my driving chapter comes to a close, my passion for the sport certainly does. I'll be staying involved in the broadcast, helping shape the next generation and giving back to the sport that's given me so much. Thank you to everyone who's been part of the journey. There are too many to name. It's been one hell of a ride. And that's Garth Tander, signing off for the final time as a race car driver. As Matt alluded to during our Supercars section, Tickford Racing revealed Austin Cindric's car number and livery for his Repco Supercars Championship debut at the Adelaide Grand Final. Cindric will drive the number 5 Ford Mustang with sponsorship from Armor All, Repco, and Ford Performance. The NASCAR Cup Series regular has already tested his supercar for the first time at Sandown on Monday during ride day, and he'll get 2 additional test days coming up at the Bend Motorsport Park before traveling to Adelaide. In 2016, he previously tested a Ford Falcon supercar with DJR Team Penske and competed in the Bathurst 12-hour endurance race twice a decade ago. Supercars chief executive Joe Burton said Cindric's debut is a genuine crossover moment that will engage both Supercars fans at home and NASCAR fans abroad. Graphic courtesy of Tickford Racing. And in a truly unique situation, McLaren now has 3 development drivers under contract, all named Ella. Cue the Spider-Man memes. We'll see Ella Lloyd return as a McLaren-backed F1 Academy driver who's had a good season as she's 30 points and has a race win at Jeddah. Her teammate next year will be Ella Stevens, who is the 2025 vice champion of the British KZ2 karting championship. Stevens is also the only female driver to win in the United Kingdom's premier karting class. Lloyd and Stevens will have McLaren liveries next year at Road and Motorsport as they'll be teammates in the F1 Academy. 14-year-old Ella Heikkinen, the daughter of 2-time Formula One world champion and former McLaren F1 driver Mika Heikkinen, she's going to join their driver development program to test single-seaters to prepare her in advance for the 2027 season. McLaren CEO Zach Brown said he hopes this signals to all the amazingly talented female karters, drivers, engineers, mechanics, marketers, and accountants out there that our sport is open to all and deeply committed to keeping up the incredible momentum we have seen over the past few years. Photo courtesy of McLaren. And now let's take a look at several technical alliances that were recently announced for the 2026 NASCAR Raleigh Auto Parts Series season. Jeremy Clements Racing announced a new technical alliance with Haas Factory Team. The number 51 Chevrolet of Jeremy Clements will operate out of HFT's facility in Kannapolis, North Carolina. JCR expects this new partnership to be a huge step forward for a long-time family-run organization, which will give it enhanced resources, advanced technology, and opportunities to build a more competitive program. Clement said they've always fought hard as a single-car team, but believes this is a major opportunity, and he's excited about what's ahead. Graphic courtesy of Jeremy Clements Racing. Meanwhile, RSS Racing will maintain its technical alliance with Haas Factory Team through the switch from Ford to Chevrolet. RSS will have 2 full-time cars, one for Ryan Sieg and another one for his younger brother, Kyle Sieg. Matt Noyce will return as crew chief for Ryan, while Aiden McHugh will be Kyle's crew chief in 2025. Ryan Sieg's car operated out of the Haas Factory Team shop, and in 2026, his younger brother, Kyle Sieg, will also, get the increased manufacturer support from Chevrolet and operate out of the same shop as well. And then their sponsor, SciAps, will return as a full-time sponsor, as both cars will also get Hendrick engines. Graphic courtesy of RSS Racing. And last but not least, Viking Motorsports Racing. They'll have access to RCR support network, operational resource, and collaborative processes. Viking recently announced Parker Retzloff as the new driver of the number 99 Chevrolet for the 2026 season. The team's general manager, Jeremy Lang, said forming this partnership with RCR represents another important step in their mission to continue improving and growing as a competitive team. Graphic courtesy of Viking Motorsports. EA Sports announced future plans for the F1 2025 video game. In 2026, there won't be a new F1 game coming out, as they plan to add a DLC that gamers will have to pay for to get gaming content related to the 2026 Formula One season. The DLC will have new cars, drivers, and teams. During the year, we get a major regulations change. EA Sports decided not to build a new game next year because they wanted to do a strategic reset, promising a new game in 2027 that looks, feels, and plays differently than what we've currently had for the last handful of years. Senior creative director Lee Manther said they remain fully committed to the EA Sports Formula One franchise because their multi-year plan includes the 2026 expansion and reimagines the F1 gaming experience for 2027 to deliver even more for players at every level around the world. Graphic courtesy of EA Sports. Jamie Chadwick will serve as the reserve driver for the Genesis Magma Racing Team in 2026. Earlier this year, she participated in the Genesis Trajectory program in partnership with IDET Sport. Chadwick competed full-time in the European Le Mans Series Championship and finished third in LMP2 alongside her co-drivers Danny Hunter-Reay and Matthias Jobert, while both Hunter-Reay and Jobert will be Genesis factory drivers in their manufacturer's debut season in the FIA World Endurance Championships Hypercar class. Chadwick will be handling the testing duties and other responsibilities related to the GMR 001 prototype. Chadwick said it's special to be involved in the development of this car, and becoming a reserve driver in Hypercar is one step closer to her ultimate goal. Photo courtesy of Genesis Magma Racing. And our last story for tonight, Nice Motorsports signed Tyler Reif for the 2026 NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series season. Reif will be the anchor driver of the number 42 Chevrolet Silverado, running most of the schedule and continuing to learn the ins and outs of the Truck Series by sharing that ride with other drivers. This year, he finished second in the points in Arca Menard Series East for Sigma Performance Services. He also made his Truck Series debut a few weeks ago at Phoenix and finished ninth in his first start. Reif said he's thankful for the opportunity to race more next year and compete on tracks he's never been to. Graphic courtesy of Nice Motorsports. And that's all of the stories I have tonight. So I turn it over to Matt for Hots and Knots.
Thank you, Kobe. Before we get to Hots and Knots, just a quick gentle reminder that Pick a Winner rolls on into the weekend with the Las Vegas Grand Prix for Formula One as we begin this triple run to crown a champion between three drivers, which is very exciting indeed. Josh is with me for Hots and Knots. Quickly before we do, John says, I can't believe Nice Motorsports let Mills go. There's a controversial one from John. And Adam says, Austin Cindric's car for the grand finale looks sweet. Adam, it's great to have FPR back in Supercars. That is a throwback from the noughties for sure. Josh and Kobe should email Kaulig Racing. Well, John, I've already sent mine in, so we could all be battling it out for a seat in a Dodge Ram truck next year. There you go. Josh is on it right now, as you can see. Josh needs to do the Mazda MX-5 Cup races in conjunction with the Rolex 24 of Daytona.
Oh, wow. Commentate or just drive?
Well, I mean, probably commentate. I mean, you've got nothing on your plate at all anyway. You have plenty of time to squeeze in 2 45-minute MX-5 races, surely.
Yeah. To be fair, I probably could do it. I mean, I could do it probably in both. If you go for it, I'd go, it's green flag. I'm hurling down towards turn number 1, and I've been shunted off into the first corner. In all honesty, having driven a car again for the first time in quite a while last week, my girlfriend allowed me to get behind the wheel of a car and on a private road, obviously, and just have a little bit of a test. The one thing I've completely forgotten about it is clutch control for reverse. I was fine going forward, it's fine stopping, but reverse still baffles the mind for me, because for those in America who don't have a clutch, basically to go backwards, you have to lift the clutch towards you. So the car's going backwards and it's towards you, but then it's down to go, and it's the opposite way round to what you would normally go. Yeah. So it threw me. I forgot how much it threw me, to be fair, which was really annoying to me. So we'll just see how that goes very personally. But not bad at all as a shout there from Adam to say, let's do MX-5 next year. I quite like that. Actually.
Well, and throwing quickly for Josh to drive in the Rolex 24, says John. Quickly throwing forward to next week, when Project Motor Racing is out, and we'll all be driving MX-5s at Daytona on the road course on Project Motor Racing. I know I certainly will be come this time next week. Hots and Knots from the weekend. MotoGP, I guess, should probably headline the Hots and Knots segment from Valencia. Congratulations to Diego Moreira on winning Moto 2.
I probably just heard my little thing went off because I'm trying to do Duolingo at the same time as this show because we only got 10 minutes. Yeah, Diego Moreira winning the Moto 2 in, frankly, the most impressive way of staying on the bike, because I feel for Gonzalez, who just threw it away.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, he had 20 points taken away from him during the season, but he made two big mistakes. Yeah. Big mistake with an accident in Malaysia and early on in the year, about 3 or 4 rounds ago. So it was just inevitable. And then I felt for him when the tyre let go, because he had a puncture, slow puncture. And he had to come in and sort the rear tyre, and he ended up a lap down. But to be fair, I think everyone can agree that Moreira has been so consistent this year, and that's what's winning the title. And he's looked good already going into MotoGP.
Yeah, and Gonzalez had his issues, but his pace wasn't there in this final sort of quarter of the season against his championship rival. And good for MotoGP that we're going back to Brazil next year, and we will have a Brazilian in the top class as the Moto2 champion, which is probably all the Espeletas really wanted anyway. And they've got that, so that's good. There wasn't really much to talk about in terms of hot from the actual any of the races really. Adam says what's hot was Sandown. He says MotoGP at Valencia was hot, and F1 coming up this weekend will be hot. I don't know.
What was happening in Valencia? It was pretty much the end of season ball, wasn't it? I think
processional.
it was Valencia's the wrong track to do a final race of the year at. It just you can't do anything, and even the testing. My God, I could. The testing yesterday. A massive overnight rain on Monday meant that going into Tuesday we had 2 hours where only 2 riders went on track for one installation lap. No running, no lap times. It took 3 hours and 15 minutes to get a rider out on the track. And that coincidentally was exactly the broadcast window for the morning session of the TV team. So when the riders finally went on the track, it was lunchtime. Yeah. I was pulling my hair out as well up in the commentary box. I stayed in there throughout the day. And in the afternoon, that went fine. But we lost 3 hours of running. Not good at all. I say we should definitely have it at Barcelona, the final race of the year. It worked last year and it worked for testing.
Yeah. And it was mentioned on the TNT coverage over the weekend. And I went, did we not come here? I'd completely forgotten that because of, again, Spain's weather issues that they had at the back end of last year and the road into the Valencia circuit basically got washed away. I've forgotten that we went to Barcelona for the Solidarity Grand Prix?
Yeah, the most Solidarity name.
Yeah. I've forgotten about that. So yeah, Valencia circuit, Ricardo Tormo and Knots. Now, I started Knots last week when it was me and Omi, and I said there only can be one knot this week, and it's the man that embarrassed himself. It's happened again, because there can only really be one proper knot this week, and it's the man that continually embarrasses himself, and that man is a Mr. F. Morbidelli.
If there was... right, we've tried to defend him, but this has gone beyond a joke.
Yeah.
How do you crash into a rider on the way to the grid when the rider is stopped in his grid box? How do you... Morbidelli and Lance Stroll crashing on the formation lap onto their own accord. Shake hands, well done. Because I was standing there going, well, hang on a minute, what's happened here? I saw the helicopter shot on the monitor. I was like, Morbidelli's gone down on the grid. How does that happen? And he broke his hand. And personally, I don't think he's going to be in MotoGP for very much longer. I don't.
No,
can't see it working.
I mean, he was on the wrong side of the grid to where he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So even if he hadn't crashed into Aleix, his good mate, Aleix Espargaro, then he would have been way out of position and they would have had to wheel him back to the other side because he was starting on the left-hand side of the grid and he was coming down sort of 3/4 away across to the right. And I think probably just as he realised he was in the complete wrong position, it was too late and he crashed into the back of Aleix, ruined Aleix's bike, he broke his exhaust. Broke his own hand, as you mentioned, Josh. Broke Aleix's exhaust, and he took a couple of sensors and things off the back of the Honda. So it ruined Aleix's race before it even begun. And Frankie was on his way to the care centre to have his hand all bandaged up. It's just.
And another thing I didn't like is that the race. Obviously, the riders were held on the grid. We had a slight delay to the procedure, and I was expecting a full-on delayed start. Red flag to come out, track get cleared out because there's debris on it. We had IRTA officials. Not right behind the riders, but they were literally alongside the riders on the grid, running down. Green flag waves at the back. Race control switch lights on, lights out. Away we go. We're racing down towards turn one, and we have literally Marshall. We have
4 or 5 people, wasn't there? Yeah,
right at the side of the circuit in the firing line. What the hell was that? Megan and me were like, "Oh no, we're going to have a delayed start." What? They're going for it? The lights went out, and Megan went, "What?" So I was like, I just did not expect it. Did not expect that had to happen. And I think Mike Webb, who's the race director at MotoGP, needs to go. I've said that for a long time now. He needs to go. We've had Freddie Spencer get kicked out. He was the head of the stewarding room. He's gone. Simon Crowfar's come in, and this year, thankfully, has been so much better in race control stewarding departments. But Mike Webb, he's got to go. He's made too many controversial decisions. The most controversial one I'd say from this year is starting the Moto3 race after two riders had to be, Noah Deltweller and Jose Antonio Rueda. They had to be resuscitated multiple times at the side of the circuit, and 2 hours later they sent out the Moto3 riders. That was wrong. That was completely wrong. So my opinion, I hate to say, but I think Mike Webb needs to go. We need a new race director in MotoGP.
Yeah, I feel like we're going to have, as we talked about with the ownership change in MotoGP, plenty of changes coming in that paddock over the next 18 to 24 months, I would imagine, in terms of people and things and stuff. So, and one of them kind of, I suppose, has already happened this weekend with the finale of Moto E.
Yes.
At the weekend.
I'm going to miss it. Moto E was good. It never quite got to what it wanted to be, which was doing full Grand Prix distances on one charge. But that's because Ducati stalled the development. So that's why we had to have two races all the time. And if we had another Gen 3 version of the bike, we would have seen full race distances and a lot lighter bikes, Pirelli tyres. It would have been a lot better than what we've ended up now not having it. And effectively, it's been replaced by the British Talent Cup, which has become Moto 4, effectively, for next season. So some positives.
Yeah, indeed. Anything else to add? I'm kind of out of...
Yeah, I want to bring up Vegas this weekend as a hot.
Yeah, let's quickly talk about that.
Because Vegas has been getting a lot of negative attention. Like, oh, yeah, we still don't need three races in America. I'd argue Vegas is one of the strongest on the calendar. It's great racing. It's high-speed racing. And this weekend, we might have the rain for the first time. I was like,
well,
it's looking good,
yes,
isn't it?
on that, if you've seen stuff on the internet of the track being flooded, it's not real.
Yeah, it's not real.
It's not real. If you've seen that, I saw it and went, oh, goodness. And then I saw something on the race not so long afterwards, and they went, oh, this is the exact spot, and look how dry it is. So, no flooding has happened yet along the strip. It may still happen over the weekend, though.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that to happen if the amount of rain comes down during the Grand Prix that we don't have literally cars floating along the river. But still, I really hope it does sprinkle a little bit. It's going to be brilliant. It's a couple of hours earlier than normal, so they've moved everything 2 hours earlier. So the track temperature will be a bit warmer. Tires are going to work good. It's going to be fantastic. Now, I'm bringing up that as a hot because what I'm saying is enjoy this weekend's Grand Prix as we all batten down. Not Pirelli. Get your act together. The Qatar Grand Prix next weekend. 25 laps only across all compounds of tyre. Yeah, 25 only. So that's C1, C2, and C3 only allowed 25 laps across all tyres. That is ridiculous. So there's no difference in tyre compounds going there. So we are screwed. It's going to be a two-stop race plus the sprint. It's going to be a nightmare. But there might be a bit of strategy because teams might do like 3 laps in qualifying and then they've got to play around with that pit lap at 18. But it's a 57-lap Grand Prix. Now, I'm no mathematician, but that means already it's going to be 2 stops plus whatever tyres you're starting on. So we might see soft, hard, medium be used, which is what I've been arguing for years is the right idea to do. Make everyone use every tyre compound in the Grand Prix. So my prediction is everyone's going to start on the medium compound tyre, then they'll go to softs, and then they'll go to hards. So we'll have like a 25-lap medium, maybe like a 10-lap soft, middle of the race sprint. Then everyone switches to hard tyres.
Yeah. I've said a few times on this show this year, one-stop Formula One races are just not doing it. They're not doing it. So it's a bit of a silly thing that we've had to have a maximum usage thrown in, but at least we're going to get more than one stop, which might throw a curveball. And of course, that race in Qatar threw some curveballs, did it not, last year? And you made that great explainer that we played on the show about when the safety car was called and all that kind of thing last year. But we'll get to all that next week because we've got Las Vegas, and of course it's the F1 Academy finale at the weekend as well, in support of the Grand Prix. So there's that to look forward to as well, with another championship, with a championship to be crowned.
I'm saying Dorian will have it personally. That's my pick.
Same.
It's the likely one, isn't it? But no sleep for me this weekend. Yay! I'll hot it and knotted out. I think we'll have more after Vegas, personally. Yeah. Okay, go on, Matt. Give me a winner this weekend. Give me a winner. Give me an F1 winner.
I'm going to roll my dice down the blackjack table, and I'm going to say it comes up 12. Kimi Antonelli.
Oh, I like that.
Last year, Russell won the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And he's been getting better and better over the last little while. Kimi, good. He was good at Brazil. I'm going with I might even put a bet on myself in a minute on Sky Bet. Kimi Antonelli, my Grand Prix winner.
I might join you on that front, actually. It's going to be quite fun. Don't forget also, I'm cheeky this, but don't forget that the Las Vegas Strip has webcams in the forms of speed cameras. Yes. So if you want to take a look at some other angles, look online at the speed cameras. I know we've set that up in the commentary box to get some, wink, wink, get out there. I've already put several up into the commentary box, and I can't wait because they're going to have so much angles this weekend. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think we've got Sphere, Strip, and if I'm not very much mistaken, Turn 7, which is the T-Mobile chicane area. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Taking a look then at our upcoming schedule. Sunday, our Grid Live wrap-up is at noon Eastern. That's going to be recapping the Formula One's Las Vegas Grand Prix as well. Now, please do continue to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for helping us reach 1,700 subscribers. We're now inching closer to our next milestone of 2,000 subscribers. You can hit the bell icon to get notifications so you'll always know when we go on the air. And you can follow our social media platforms and visit gridnetworktv.com. You can take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. You can join Colin, Mark, Michelle, Robin, David, Matthew, and our newest Patreon supporter of Crystal, who invest each month in the Grid Network. And we encourage you to join these fine folks to help us keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can afford to send our team to the track more often and continue growing our media outlet. And all that is in the video description below. If you want to make a one-time donation, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want, and consider buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and I will thank you on the air. I finally made it through the entire show for the first time in a couple of weeks. Get in. Not bad. For Kobe Lambeth and Matt White from the Grid Endurance Performance Index, I'm Joshua Burge from JB Motorsports. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.